Good evening. This is BelGeode, and we are back with some more Microsoft Flight Simulator. And welcome to 2022. Happy New Year. Yeah, I know it's a little late. It's like the middle of January. Well, you know what? I needed a break, so I took a break. And that's why the channel has been bereft of any flight sim videos, although I still have the Skyrim thing going. It's about to end, though. We're coming close to the end of that little mini series, as it were, for Skyrim VR. So if you've been following that, watching that, commenting and liking on that, that is awesome. Thank you very much for that. But we're going to get back into the flight simming, and today it is my great pleasure to announce that finally, at long last, Carenado has released the Cessna 337H Skymaster II. When I say I've been waiting for this one, I am so not kidding. Since the beginning of Microsoft Flight Simulator, one of the first aircraft that I really wanted, aside from an F-14 Tomcat, has been this bird right here. I have a very strong emotional connection to this one, going back to age 7 when I first saw one at the airport where my father learned how to fly. There was actually one sitting there, and I remember like running up to it and walking around it. I was kind of afraid to get close to the propellers because I thought that they would like magically turn on and chop me up. But from that point onwards, when I was 7 years old, I fell in love with the aircraft. This is now the 4th time, I believe, that I am purchasing Carenado Skymaster for various sims. I've had it for FSX, for P3D, for X-Plane 10, and used it in X-Plane 11. There are a bunch of videos on that. If you look through the history of this channel, you will see a bunch of Skymaster X-Plane videos. And now for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And my biggest concern was going to be whether or not Carenado actually pulled it off. The only thing I really asked for from Carenado, make sure it flies like the X-Plane version. That was all I wanted, and I'm pleased to say they did it. With that being said, is it absolutely groundbreaking? No, it brings some new things to the table, and like any product, you know, there's tiny minor bugs here and there that I'm sure Carenado will iron out, and there are some things that I can still complain about, but overall, aside from my great bias towards this aircraft, I think Carenado absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. And remember, I am pretty biased. So let's take a look at it. So first thing I can tell you, since this is Carenado, you can only purchase this from here, from the in-sim marketplace. So this is what you get, and you can see it says the standard stuff there: cruise speed about 150 knots, max altitude 17,800 feet, 7-hour endurance. I don't feel like testing this because I am not a long haul guy, but I can pretty much confirm that I have taken this sucker on cross-country routes in other sims, and yeah, you can fly a good ways, 1,050 nautical miles to be precise. So once you purchase this inside of Microsoft Flight Simulator, it downloads in the background. You don't have to close down the sim at all. It just does its magic. Make sure that your billing information is updated first before you try doing that. Otherwise, you may get a nasty surprise when it grays out and won't allow you to buy it. But once you do get it and have it installed, these are the liveries you are provided with: the green, the red, the standard tan or beige one, the blue, the black, and of course your basic white, which those of you who like to make liveries, this is the one that you're probably going to want to use because it will allow you to put whatever you want on there. My personal favorite is the green one. I know it's not purple, but green is my second favorite color, and this one just reminds me so much of like the 70s and 80s designs. To me, it's just perfect. So that's what we're going to be using today. Weight and balance, pretty standard fare. Nothing, you know, really groundbreaking here. For the trip that we are going to be doing, I have set us to half tanks. That's really all we're going to need. It's only a short hop. However, what I can do is I can add some luggage in the back. So right now it says 15 pounds. So I'm going to set it to 105 pounds. And you can see our center of gravity there. So all of that is set up. So we're good to go. And then finally, of course, our tail number is always November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. So if you see that one online, just know that's me. All right. Where are we going, you ask? Well, it is the middle of winter here in Pennsylvania, and I don't really feel like dealing with snow, so we're going to Mexico. More precisely, we are going to Cozumel, and we're taking off from Cancun. Now, Cancun International Airport is a default airport. For the life of me, I don't remember if it is one of the ones that comes with premium deluxe package or if it's just your stock standard default airport without any kind of add-ons. I want to say the latter. It seems like it's more stock standard when I did my test flight. But suffice to say, this is where we're going to take off from, and we're going to do some funky turns around here. We're going to continue heading south, and then we will roll in to an add-on airport for Cozumel. And this particular add-on is by FlyMex. The link, of course, will be in the video description below. I got this particular airport from the in-sim marketplace, but if you prefer, you can also get it from Sim Market, depending on how you feel about, buying outside of the Microsoft marketplace. However, if you're looking to get it quickly, this is the best way to get it. It's in the sim. So that is our destination airport. It's a pretty straightforward flight. There's really not much that I can tell you about it. It's going to take us about a half an hour. It'll take us much longer than that since I'm going to go through the entire startup procedure. And it's about 46 nautical miles with my funky little waypoints added in there. So there we go. Now we know where we are going on Mother Earth. So how about we hop into the venerable Cessna Skymaster? I'll tell you all about it. I'll show you how to start it up and everything. And let us go flying in the evening time. I'm going to change this here because it says 10:41. I want it to be just before sunset. Yeah, right there is good. 4:32. All right, folks. I will see you after the break in the cockpit. All right, so hope you enjoyed our little interlude there. This is the bad bird right here. And the first thing that's probably immediately noticeable about the Skymaster II is the fact that it now has a weather radar. Look at that. Got a little pod right there. That's brand new. That was not there in either the X-Plane version or the old FSX version. And I want to say it was not there in the P3D version as well. But suffice to say, I'm really glad that they included it. I'm not sure that we're going to need it today because it doesn't look like we have that many clouds around Cancun here. But yeah, and I absolutely love this green color. It kind of reminds me of kitchen appliances back in the day, around the same time that this aircraft would have been built. That was the color to have for kitchen appliances. With that was that avocado green, I think they called it. Personally, I hated it on appliances, but on planes, it kind of looks cool. So I'll take it. I'll take it. Still kind of wish they would have made a purple one, but I'm sure I can probably figure that out in paint.net or Photoshop or something like that and pretty much make it the way that I would like to have it. The only major thing that I can really complain about before we even hop into the bird is the fact that Carenado is still using their same old tired pilots. Come on, Carenado. Asobo took the time to give us different kinds of humans that we can put in the cockpit. And representation does matter. And granted, Asobo still has some work to do because they're still missing some particular types of humans. And I would like to see them do something about that. But either way, there's just no reason for me to be an old grumpy dude flying. I'm already an old grumpy dude flying. And I certainly don't look like the one that's in the cockpit. So come on, Carenado, throw us a bone here. All right, but as far as the aircraft itself goes, a lot of stuff pretty stock standard. So, it's a four-seater. You've got space in the back for baggage. There's a little baggage door back there that we can open and close. Cowl flaps are currently open. You'll see the one down there, and you'll see the one for the back engine there. It is important to note that the way that this aircraft is laid out, since it is a push-pull configuration, the props rotate in opposite ways, which actually means if you're flying this thing, as long as your engines are both okay, you really shouldn't have any torque issues. I have seen a couple of people so far since this aircraft came out asking, well, how do you fly this thing? Because I keep having it veer to the left or the right. You need to check your engines. You need to check your engines. Both of them have to be in tune and sync. Otherwise, you may run into some issues. All right, but now that we've had a good look at the exterior of the aircraft, let's hop into the office. We'll get started. And hopefully, if we time everything correctly, we should arrive in Cozumel just around sunset. So that should make for a very interesting approach. All right, so welcome on board the Skymaster. We are in the office, and as you can see, everything is old school with the exception of the radio stack. So this thing used to have like an old Bendix King radio stack, and as a matter of fact, I think the X-Plane version had a Collins radio stack in there. It's now updated, so we've got the little weather radar at the bottom here, which is of course a Bendix King, and that's for our little weather pod on the wing. And then we've got the GNS 530, which, as far as I'm aware, is the default GNS 530 that comes with the Asobo birds. However, you do have the option of swapping this out for a GTN 750, which is a superior GPS unit. I do not own it, therefore I will not show you how to swap that out. But I will show you real quick a little iPad that seems to come with all Carenado aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So you've got the various options for static elements, external power, tow bar, showing the pilot or the co-pilot. We're going to just leave them hidden because, to be honest with you, I really don't like them. Sorry, Carenado. I know you put a lot of hard work in there, but you did that hard work back in FSX days. Time to upgrade, man. Time to upgrade. All right, that's all I'll say about that. Okay, but if we go to the next page, this is where you would swap out the GTN 750 if you own it. And on the next page, you can set it up either as cold and dark, ready for taxi, or ready for takeoff. We are going to bypass that because we're going to be doing it the old-fashioned way. We do have a takeoff checklist here that we can refer to. The manual, I will say, is a little bit skimpy, and that is something Carenado is notorious for. They don't really give us a lot of information in the manual. But if you are resourceful, you can search online. Google is your friend, and you can find the real Skymaster manual. And so far, just from following that manual, I can fly this thing by the numbers. That speaks well for how Carenado has done the flight model for this particular bird. There should also be a landing checklist, so we'll take a look at that, provided I can get it to click. There we go. That is our landing checklist. And that is everything on the little iPad. So we can put it back by just clicking the little button at the bottom there. While we're at it, we'll close our door. There we go. Everything's all locked up. Looks nice. Typical Carenado fashion, everything just looks absolutely gorgeous, but not everything is functional. So, like the fuses and whatnot, don't expect the fuses to work. But everything that is quote unquote important to the operation of the aircraft, that does work. Not saying that fuses are not important, they're just less important, shall we say. All right, but let's go ahead and get everything fired up, and that way we can make it to Cozumel. So the first thing we're going to need is our battery, and I have a button on my Virtual HOTAS bound for both batteries and alternators. So that's the two red switches and the two white switches. We'll click that on. That's the sound I like to hear. That is the sound of the battery coming on. Okay, now with that done, let's get our lights. So we'll go beacon. And normally we save the nav until after we start up, but I like turning it on because otherwise I will forget. Pitot heat will leave off, wing lights will leave off, strobe will leave off, and of course landing and taxi lights. Now you may notice those two blue lights at the bottom. What are those? These are for the cowl flaps. As I showed you outside, the cowl flaps are currently open. They default to open. Leave them that way when you're starting up. The only reason you may need to close the cowl flaps is if your engines tend to be running a little too cool and you want to warm them up somewhat, then you would close the cowl flaps. But other than that, it's fine to just leave them as is. All right, next, let's get our fuel and everything set up. So above me here, you're going to see the main fuel valves. And this just basically tells the engines which tanks they need to feed from. So right now, the rear engine is feeding from the right tank, and the front engine is feeding from the left tank. You don't need to change that. Leave that exactly as it is. In level flight, you can switch it over, but we're not traveling too far, so I'm not even going to bother with it. Just leave it as it is. If you want to shut off the fuel, put everything to the middle. All right. Let's see. What am I missing here? Oh, the auxiliary fuel pumps. So with the auxiliary fuel pumps, you'll notice there are two types of switches. There is the high and there is the low. Typically, whenever we're doing a startup, we're going to want it on low, but we're only going to turn it on for like maybe 3 to 5 seconds. So one, turn that back off, turn that back off. That's it. You don't want to flood the engine, so that's all you need to do. If you are in a very cold day or even a very hot day, you may want to use the red switches instead for the high fuel pump. But for a day like today, where the temperatures are mild, it's pretty much all we need. Now, I want to take a second to talk about the throttle system. You may notice everything is duplicated here because, of course, we've got two props, two engines, and of course, there's going to be two mixture controls. So the prop pitch is already at full pitch, which is where it should be. So we're going to leave it there. Mixture, we're going to go ahead and pull both of those switches up in preparation for engine start. And throttles, I can split. Now, the way that the throttles work, you may have seen on some aircraft recently after the latest update that they no longer respond to just the throttle axis command in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You have to now set it to throttle 1 axis and throttle 2 axis. And depending on what your physical setup is like, if you've got like maybe 4 throttles, maybe you want to add throttle number 3 and throttle number 4 in there as well. But because I've got the Virtual HOTAS that does have split throttles, if I move my left throttle, that will now control the front engine. And that is throttle 1 axis. And then if I use my right, that will now control the rear engine. In this aircraft, one of the quirks with it, when you're going to take off, they say you're supposed to lead with the rear engine. Now, what does that mean? That means you push the rear lever up so that they're split like this. And then when you're running everything up, you do basically a number like this. And then eventually you're going to have them sync up roughly around 80 or so percent for takeoff power. And then if you have a split throttle like I do, you would just latch them in place. It's obviously going to be a little bit more smooth than that, but I'm just kind of demonstrating. So right now, that would be regular takeoff power for a long runway such as this. Obviously, you can go higher to full power, but right now I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. All right, so I'm going to split my throttles again, and we are going to crack them both open. So there we go, like right about there should be good. And let's go ahead and get an engine start done. So to start this bird, relatively easy. We already have the mixture up, we already have the throttles cracked, so all we need to do is turn our magnetos and go close to the window and shout, clear! There we go. Engine 1 is up. That is our front engine. Typically, you start the front engine first. Let's get the second engine. Clear! There we go. Rear engine is up, so I'm going to link our throttles together, and we will idle at roughly about 1,000 RPM. Right about there is good. I should have checked to see if we had our parking brakes on, but I'm pretty certain that we do, so I'm not going to worry about it. It is a little bit loud, so we will close our window now. Or at least I will attempt to close the window. There we go. Love it, love it. All right, so now that we've got the engines running, let's get our avionics up and running. That's this master switch right here, and you can see it turns on the radios, it turns on the GPS. It does not turn on the weather radar, and we really don't need it for this flight, but just to show you what it looks like, I will turn the knob. So there's our start screen there. We'll have it do its little test, and we can put it to on. So if there were weather, it would show up on the little screen in front of us or off to the side and whatnot. And by weather, I mean precipitation. It's obviously not going to show you like winds or anything, but it will show you where all the heavy cells of rain are. Transponder we'll want to get on, so let me set that to standby, and it looks like we are squawking 1200, which is fine for VFR flight. And we need to wait for our engine temperatures to start going up a little bit. Might take us a while. Just to remind you, I am, of course, in VR. All of my videos are done in VR. As such, when I speak, it does tend to move the screen. So my apologies in advance if it is a little bit difficult for you to watch. I try to keep my head as straight as possible, but it's becoming increasingly difficult because I now have the butt kicker that was gifted to me for a Christmas gift by one of my good friends, the VR Pilot. And as much as I love it, sitting here with the seat vibrating is probably not really helping my cause as far as recording this video. So apologies for that. All right, but now that we've got everything up and running, we should probably contact the tower and make them aware that we need to taxi out. And actually, let's go ahead and listen to the ATIS first and see what we're dealing with. Can I tune you, ATIS? There we go.
Cancun Airport information, India 2200 Zulu. Wind calm.
Oh, that's good.
Visibility 7. Sky condition. Few clouds at 4,900 feet. Temperature 19er. Dew point 10. Altimeter 30.02.
3002, okay.
1 runway 12 right and ILS 1 runway 12 left in use. Landing and departing runway 30 left and runway 30 right.
All right, 30 left.
Aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have India.
India, got it. Okay, and let's tell them we're departing straight out.
Ground November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo ready to taxi straight out, departure with India.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo taxi to and hold short of runway 30 left via taxiway Alpha. Contact tower on 118.1 when ready.
Will do.
Taxi to and hold short runway 30 left using taxiway Alpha Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, so that is done. Okay, now a couple other housekeeping things we need to do. First off, taxi lights. Might as well turn those on from now. And our glare shield lights, which is a lovely little blue glow that shines on our dashboard. You can probably see hints of it here. As it gets closer to nighttime, that will become a bit more pronounced. You can probably see one of the bulbs over there. That I love. That's one of those little things with the Skymaster that is really cool to me. And then we'll set up our takeoff trim. So you may be interested in knowing, as far as takeoff trim, you see that little white mark on the left side there? That's where you're going to want to set your takeoff trim. So right about there. That's it. That's all you need to do. You can change it after you take off, obviously, but for takeoff purposes, that's where you're going to want to put it. Okay, and I think everything is good. Cylinder head temperature is a little low, but oil temps are fine. Oil pressure is fine. We've got 50% gas in the tanks, so we've got plenty to make it to where we're going. We do need to set our altimeter, so what did he say, 30.02? That should be it right about there. So that puts us at about 25 feet above sea level. Not too shabby, not too shabby. While I'm at it, I'm going to set our heading bug to 300, which should be the runway heading, or at least close to it. I know sometimes it does tend to vary by a few degrees, but there we go. We got that set. We'll worry about the course needle later. Speaking of which, I'm going to switch this from V-lock to GPS, so that way when we turn on the autopilot, which is this bank of 9 buttons here, it will actually track where it's supposed to. All right, so time the taxi out. It's going to take us a couple of minutes to make it all the way down there to the end of runway 30 left. So as always, we will go to the outside view and we will cut the video and come back in once we are at the end of the runway. All right, so we made it to runway 30 left. That was a little bit longer of a taxi than I thought. But on the bright side, we won't need any flaps at all for this takeoff, and with our trim currently set, we should just kind of jump off the ground by the time we hit about 70 or so knots. All right, so let's finalize everything for takeoff. The cowl flaps are open. We're going to put our fuel pumps on, so once again, we'll set that to low. We'll get our pitot heat on. Wing lights we really don't need, so we'll leave those off for now. Strobe lights we will turn on, and of course our landing lights. Okay, so everything is set on that side. We'll worry about the autopilot after takeoff. As I mentioned, flaps we're not going to worry about. However, let's go ahead and get this transponder squawking. So there we go. Everything looks good to me. And I would say we are about ready to call the tower and tell them we're getting the heck out of here. Let me check for traffic. Okay, no traffic coming in, and we've already confirmed there's no traffic going out. Tune tower. And tell them we want to get out of here.
Tower November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo ready at runway 30 left departing straight out.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo altimeter 30.02 phoneme alphabet equals X Microsoft.
Here we go again. Seriously, Asobo, what's up with that?
Straight out approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 30 left.
Alright, that's what I needed to know.
Cleared for takeoff runway 30 left Alpha Golf Bravo.
I'm starting to think that happens if you don't have your Flight Sim ATC voice set to Azure. I'm thinking because I've got it set to just the default Windows voice, it's doing that. But either way, it never used to do that thing where it feels like it's reading HTML code. So Asobo, you may want to take a look at that. All right, parking brakes off. And let's push forward. One thing I do notice about this thing, you gotta kind of pump it up to almost 1400 RPM before she will move. Typically with Cessnas, it's around 1200 RPM and then she will start moving. And then of course you can taxi at around 1000. But this one takes a little bit more. And since I have never flown one of these things in real life, only in various flight sims, I cannot say for sure if that is accurate. But the Cessnas that I have flown, typically it's about 100 or 1200 that you actually start moving out. And considering the fact that we've only got half tank of gas and a little bit of luggage in the back plus me, it seems like we have to do a lot of engine power for something that's got 2 engines just to move on. Alright, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to line myself up on the numbers. And we'll go ahead and split the throttles. And here we go, folks. Brakes down, throttles up. Remember, lead with the rear. So I'm going to pull them both up. You can see on the RPM meter there, right one is going up before the left one. So that's the rear engine going up. Trying to get it close to the green. There we go. Brakes off. We're at about 85% and lock them. So slowly but surely they're coming into sync, so that will negate any torque issues that you have. I actually do not have my hand on a stick at all. We're at 60. 65, 70, there we go, and just like that, we are airborne. What a beautiful thing. I love it when an aircraft likes to fly itself off the ground. That is just amazing. Okay, so before we get out of range of this tower, let's go back to the outside view and we'll pull these gear up. Alright, we are over 1,000 feet, and I'm letting go of the stick just so we can, fall just a little bit here. And we're going to want to pull our prop pitch back somewhat, so I'm going to get us into a regimen where we're at about 2,500 feet per, or 2,500 RPM feet per minute. That's a little too high. We're not a fighter jet here. We can, however, set up our autopilot, so let me go ahead and do that really quick. I'm going to trim us down slightly. There we go. So main autopilot switch on, and that also turns on our flight director. We'll set up our nav hold, and we'll leave the altitude hold currently off until we get to our proper altitude, which in this case, I am thinking is going to be around 3,000-ish feet. Yeah, that should be fine. Alright, so right now we are there, and of course you'll see that the autopilot has taken hold, so it is starting to line us up. There we go. It'll do its thing, but you know what? It is pretty good. Alright, thank you, buddy.
Tower November November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo frequency change.
Look at that beautiful sunset.
Approach November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo is type 4 miles northwest of Cancun 2,600 feet. Request flight following.
All right, 3,000 is what we're looking
November 70
for.
Alpha Golf Bravo approach. Squawk 0216.
0216. Okay, give me a second here. I want to level out first. Altitude hold on.
Squawk 0216 Alpha Golf Bravo.
There it is.
Alpha Golf Bravo radar contact 5 miles northwest of Cancun 3,100 feet. Altimeter tree 0.02.
Roger Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, so what we're doing now is we're going to set us up for cruise. So I want my RPM to be roughly around 2,400. I want my fuel flow to be back a little bit, so we should probably first turn off the auxiliary pumps. There we go. And we can lean our mixture a little bit. We do have an EGT that we can reference here, so we can pull it all the way back till it goes peak and then starts coming back down. You can see it going peak now. There we go, start dropping again. So right about there should be good, and you'll notice that our fuel flow has drastically dropped, so we're now sipping gas. I haven't messed with the throttle just yet. All I've done is change our prop pitch and our mixture. So now what we can do is we can bring the manifold pressure down to about 18 inches of mercury. So right about there should be good. And what does that mean as far as airspeed? Well, you can see we're going pretty fast, about 140. So this will pull us back to about 135. And probably about 130 should be a good cruise speed. That's all we need to do. So that'll keep this aircraft in control. Both the engines will be purring like kittens. Everything will be in the green, and you can basically just sit back and sip some gin and juice. Now, you can also use this gauge here, and just so you're aware, this is a pretty unique gauge for the Skymaster. I don't know too many, if any, other aircraft that actually have this gauge in there. But this tells you at a glance everything that you need to know about both engines. So you can always reference those numbers there just to make sure that everything is performing the way that you would like it to. Let me get our landing lights and taxi lights off. Pitot heat will leave you on. Okay. So I would say we are pretty good. So how about we cut to the outside view for a moment, and when we come back, we'll take a look in the back of the plane. All right, and we are back on board. Hope you enjoyed the little musical interlude there. And this is the back of the Skymaster. This is so cool. Even though I was not fortunate enough as a kid to actually get to ride around in the back of this thing, I am pretty sure this is exactly what it would have looked like had I gotten in there. I've been in the 172, the 152, the 182. This one feels like the family station wagon of the sky, kind of. I know that could also apply to the Caravan, but there's just something about the Skymaster, and I guess it's just nostalgia talking, where it just has that vibe. And I love the fact that Carenado has faithfully and meticulously duplicated all the features of a 1960s, 70s, 80s vintage. Yeah, probably around 70s vintage. It just looks great. Everything about this looks great. But of course, it's Carenado. They are known for making stuff that looks great. Where Carenado has often fallen short has been, of course, with their flight models and systems modeling. But I am pleased to say this flies exactly as I wanted it to, exactly as I expected it to. So I gotta give them kudos on that one. They really did it this time. And this was the one that I have been waiting for. And folks, let me tell you, I've been bugging Carenado about this bird since day one. Ever since I found out they were involved in the whole Microsoft Flight Simulator project, I've been sending them IMs, emails, everything, asking them, begging them to bring the Skymaster in. And I'm sure a number of you probably have as well. Well, this is what we get. And I am so happy that we got it. It's just awesome. I love this bird. I really do. I know it seems like I'm gushing. I am, and I am not ashamed in the least. It's not that often that I get really excited about a particular aircraft, but yeah, you know that if I do, there's often a good reason. All right, let's head back to the front. So we're going to do this here, kind of sneak through and put ourselves back in the correct seat. Okay, there we go. Back at home. All right, let's see where we are first of all. So we've got about 10 minutes till our destination. 2.5 miles until Tefmo waypoint. Oh, will do. Will do.
124.7 for Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, 124.7. There it is.
Cancun approach November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo 3,000 feet.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo Cancun approach altimeter tree 0.02 continue to Tefmo as planned.
All right, sounds good to me. Okay, so we'll make sure that everything is looking good. Our manifold pressure is at 18, RPMs 2400, fuel flow roughly around 3 or 350. And cylinder head temperature is nominal. Oil temp is good. Oil pressure is good. Plenty of gas. Now, one thing that you will notice about this bird, the rear engine generally does tend to run a little bit hotter than the front engine. That's why you need your cowl flaps. Always keep those open. There's not too many instances where you will need to close them. All right, so we just passed Tefmo and we're heading to Vibla. Vibla is the first waypoint, or actually in my flight plan, the only waypoint before we get to that island there, which is where Cozumel is. So that means we're going to need to start coming down. To descend in this bird is a little bit tricky because of the way that the autopilot is set up. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get rid of the altitude hold, and to manipulate the settings, we're going to want to use this knob right here. So I'm going to set it to -3-ish. -2, -3. Okay, so you can see we're coming down at a pretty sprightly pace, about 700 feet per minute descent. And we can actually pull the power back now, since we know that we are going to be landing momentarily, and we're about 5 minutes away from our waypoint. So I'm pulling our throttle back to about halfway. We're going to bring our prop pitch back up, compensate for the drop in power. And we're also going to get our mixture back up since we're back into thicker air. So there we go, full prop pitch, full mixture. If you go too far down on the throttle with this bird, it will yell at you. I'm going to demonstrate. So right about there, that's as low as you want to go before it'll start complaining to you. So keep that in mind when you're flying this sucker. All right, look at that. Got a gorgeous sunset here. Oh, this is just awesome. I need to do some more flying in Mexico. I want to see the Mexican Grand Canyon, so I think we're going to make a video out of that at some point in time. But that is just awesome what we're seeing right here. This is the touristy area of Mexico, which honestly I'm pretty sure most of Mexico is considered touristy at this point. But this area in particular, all along this Yucatan Peninsula here. All right, so we are at 1800. I'm gonna level us out at about 1500, and we will hold it there until it is time for us to bring her in for a landing. We're about 2 miles away from Vibla. So at Vibla, the aircraft will point us towards the runway. All right. Just waiting for this thing to put itself where it needs to be. There we go. 1500 feet is what I'm looking for. Altitude hold back on. So that will negate everything that we've done on the little pitch controls there. And that'll keep us at 1500 feet. So once again, as we come into that turn, let's go to the outside view. Alright, so we are closing in on our approach waypoint, which is Calho. I don't even know how they come up with these names. But that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Calho. Exactly like that, dude. That's probably not even how it's pronounced. But yeah, that it is. Okay, so we need to start thinking about getting our gear down and getting our flaps down for landing. So as far as our gear limit speeds and our flap limit speeds, 140 is what to remember for the gear. 120 is what to remember for flaps 1 and flaps 2. 110 is what to remember for flaps 3. So you'll see our flap settings there. All right, so to start with, we're going to go ahead and get our gear down. But before I do that, let me go ahead and contact them. Make sure that they are aware we're coming in. Is it this one, MXQC? No, it's this one, Cozumel International. And request full stop landing.
Cozumel Tower, November 70 Alpha
There it is,
Golf
right there.
Bravo 7 miles northwest, 1,500 feet to land.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo Cozumel Tower. Altimeter tree 0.01 phoneme alphabet equals X.
There we go again.
USPH equals WIHND wind slash phoneme com make straight.
Ain't nobody got time for that, buddy. Sheesh.
Make straight in runway 12 Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, now let's go to the outside view and get the gear out.
Alpha Golf Bravo phoneme alphabet equals X Microsoft USPH equals WIHND wind slash phoneme com clear to land runway 12.
Clear to land runway 12 Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, we are good to go. We are cleared to land. So Autopilot, you can turn off completely. And let's get our landing lights back on. Landing taxi. Flight director will turn you off as well. And as you can see, we are now slightly off course because of all of that. We're also a little high. So what do we do in this instance? Well, we're going to want to trim for speed. You may notice on your airspeed indicator there's a little blue line there. Typically that's the line that we're going to use for our approach speed or even our climb out speed. So that's about what, 90 knots thereabouts. And you can see we're already on glide slopes, so we're actually looking pretty good. We should be able to pull this off. So I've actually got our throttle relatively idle here. Coming down at about 700 feet per minute, so a bit sprightly, but we should be able to pull it off. And you can also now see the blue light that I was talking about. That is my favorite part of this bird. I know a lot of the times you'll see red for your cockpit instrument lights and so on, but this blue, there's just something about this blue that's so calming. If I could find a way to change it to purple though, I definitely would. All right, now we're too low. I'm spending too much time looking at the blue. It's always something, right, folks? All right, but welcome to Cozumel. And look at that. Got some cruise ships and everything there. That is so cool. That is really cool. We are a little bit low, so let me adjust accordingly. It's going to be a very shallow approach, but I'm still pushing her forward, trying to get some speed here. There we go. We want to bring this thing down nice and easy. Let's go ahead and get the last notch of flaps, which is going to cause us to balloon up. So I'm going to drop the power just a touch here. There we go. Looking good. Feeling good. Look at that beautiful island. Now I do not have photogrammetry on, so I don't know how accurate this is, but I know that a lot of the scenery objects that are here are from Flymex's scenery package, so you will find that with it as long as you've got that particular add-on scenery installed. But here we go, folks. Buckle up. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra power because I think I see a palm tree at the end of the runway there. I kind of don't want to hit this palm tree. That would be bad. That would be bad. Alright, and we are clear of all trees, so now comes the time where we chop the power and bring her in. Aim for the touchdown zone. Landing, just the opposite of takeoff. You really don't have to worry too much about torque or anything with this. It does have some stopping power, but you also want to make sure you're completely idle before you do that. So let's pull the power back. A little bit of flare. Ooh! That butt kicker just kicked my butt. Literally. I love it. Oh, I love this thing. Alright, and now we can hit the brakes. There's my turn off. Oh, I will. I just need to figure out where I need to exit the runway. That would be nice, right? All right, let's get our flaps up. Okay. Need to give it a little bit more throttle here, and I think I see our taxiway. So right about here should be it. Perfect, perfect. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cozumel. This is the aircraft or the airport that awaits us. All right, thank you, buddy.
118.0 for Alpha Golf Bravo.
Totally not contacting 118.0. Okay, now I didn't turn our fuel pumps on. I probably should have, but it's really not too critical. We were okay on that landing. So we'll get our landing lights off. We'll get our strobe lights off. Autopilot is already off. And now we can taxi our way in. So we'll see if we can find a good spot. We'll pull her in. We'll go to the outside view as we are working our way in. All right, and we made it. And you can see this is a pretty well done airport. I mean, granted, there is not much to the airport itself, but what there is pretty well modeled. You can see we've even got dumpsters and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. I haven't been to the inside. Maybe we will do that for our outro, kind of like we did when we were in Indonesia. But yeah, I like this. I really like this. This is well done. Good job, FlyMex. And good job, Carenado. This aircraft is everything I hoped it would be. It translates very well to Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I gotta say, you've done me proud on this one. So thank you. Thank you, Carenado, for this one. This is awesome. And by the way, folks, I purchased this one. I did not get a press copy or media review copy or anything like that. That's how much I love this plane. 4 times now I have purchased this plane from Carenado. I think it's time to admit I have a problem. All right, but we are just about done, so I will go ahead and get everything turned off. And of course, I would like to thank you for watching. This has been BelGeode, and I have been flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just to remind you, the aircraft I've been showing you has been the Carenado Cessna C337 Skymaster II, and it is payware. It is available only in the InSim marketplace, the Microsoft marketplace. So that's the only place that you can find it, but honestly, I think it's worth it, so definitely do that. And the scenery that we have flown into is by FlyMex. This is Cozumel International Airport. That is also available on the marketplace or in SimMarket. Personally, I think it's easier for you to just get it on the marketplace since it's right there. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and power down. And let me get my prop pitch down as well too. And then we will call this episode done. I sincerely hope you enjoyed our little hop from Cancun to Cozumel. I've never been to either of these places in real life, but I would love to go, and I think it would be the icing on the cake if I ever did in a Cessna Skymaster. But that will just about do it for me, so thank you again, and if you enjoy what you have seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will catch you all really soon with some more Microsoft Flight Simulator goodness. It'll either be a full production video such as this, or it'll be one of my chill vids, which honestly, those are a lot easier to make these days. But that being said, I hope you all have an excellent evening, and I will talk to you all really soon. BelGeode signing out. Ciao.